I don't eat in between those meals no matter what. And abstinence is definitely the most important thing in my life today. And my abstinence date is the 4th of May 2018, so I'm coming up to 2 years of grey sheet abstinence, which still feels like an incredible miracle to me. I'm a little bit intimidated by the fact that there's 34 people staring at me. I've never qualified for such a big crowd before, but these are strange times that we're living in. That's probably why this meeting is so large tonight. But like everybody else on here, probably, I woke up this morning feeling a bit anxious. In the last 3 days, things have escalated very fast in the UK, although I've been aware of things going on in Ireland and other places. My family are in Ireland, which moved much quicker there than here, and also people in Europe and around in America. So we could kind of see what was coming. But basically last night I discovered that both my husband and I are going to be working from home, plus we'll be homeschooling my daughter. She'll be off school from Monday until September. And we also have my husband's elderly parents who are very ill, and he's their sole carer. So I felt a bit anxious, and I'm sure a lot of people feel anxious at the moment. And that's not to say that there are people worse off than me, but I decided that quite often God speaks to me through things that I read or things that people say. And I was looking through the big book for some kind of inspiration or calmness. And this paragraph really jumped out at me. It's from page 100, and it's within Working with Others. And it says, both you and your man must walk together day by day on the path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. When we look back, we realize that the things which came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands were better than anything we could have planned. Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. And yeah, I really felt my higher power speaking to me through that paragraph, particularly those last few words, no matter what your present circumstances. And it felt to me that my higher power was telling me that he's with me, and that he's protecting me, and that as long as I follow his dictates. Dictate sounds like a strange word. I feel that God speaks to me in a more gentle way than that. But really bringing it back into my grey sheet journey, the biggest thing that I've handed over to God has been my food, weighing and measuring 3 meals a day from the grey sheet. And for sure that has given me the most positive results in my life so far. Yeah, just at the moment, well, every day I find great peace in weighing three weighed and measured meals from the grey sheet. But yeah, more and more I'm finding I love the boundary of that, particularly at the moment. I love how therapeutic that feels to me. It just feels like a really calming thing to do, to not to shop at the moment, but definitely to chop and prepare my food. Yeah, just more and more grateful for the miracle of this. And as I was going around the supermarket, I was kind of thinking, if I was about to go into isolation as a compulsive eater, I could not possibly stockpile the amount of food I would need to be a compulsive eater in isolation, if I think back to what I used to eat before I came into grey sheet. And definitely this is the kind of scenario that I would have eaten on, or else I would have seen it as a great opportunity to diet. And yeah, again, I'm just grateful for the peace that you know, no matter what's going on around me, I will be weighing and measuring 3 meals a day, and I will come out the other side of this, please God. And my weight won't have gone up, my weight won't have gone down, and you know, it'll just be eating wise business as usual. I just want to reflect on, aside from all that, my spirit, experience, strength, and hope. And I am definitely a compulsive overeater. I was a big baby when I was born. I was 9 pounds. My grandmother told me that my mother used to have to prepare food and keep it in the fridge for me. Even as a baby, I seemed to demand more food than other babies. That's what she told me. But I grew up a pretty normal background. You know, I didn't have any traumatic events happen in my childhood, so I can't say that that's why I became a compulsive eater. I don't notice that there are any other compulsive eaters within my family, so I don't think I inherited it. And really, at this stage in the game, I don't think it's relevant where it came from, how it happened. I just came into the world hardwired to be a compulsive eater. I always ate more than other children around me, certainly my brother and sister. My weight didn't become a problem until I was around 12 or 13. And then it did become a problem, and I began to start dieting. And that was my life right up until I came into Grey Sheet almost 2 years ago. I was always either dieting or I was compulsive eating. I was constantly on a seesaw. And I see that when I look back, that dieting had a very it actually made my disease worse, because when I came out of the diet, I would go into a really frenzied stage of binging. And yeah, the binging definitely got worse over time the more dieting I did. So it kind of compounded it. So at school, I found school was quite difficult for me because I had undiagnosed dyslexia. So Ireland, I grew up in Ireland, so in the late 70s and early 80s, they didn't know what dyslexia was. And so I was just considered to be pretty stupid. I was sent to a remedial class. And I think the worst thing about that was I actually believed that I was stupid. I didn't do very well academically, and I left school with very not great qualifications. And then through one thing or another, too long to go into here, I actually found myself in my early 20s. I was accepted to study architecture, and it was like a second chance really at education. And I discovered that I wasn't stupid, that my brain just worked in a different way. And I did very well at that, and it has been a very good career for me. And that sort of relates back to my eating in the sense that there's always a solution, I think. Definitely Grey Sheet is a solution for me. I don't believe it's a solution for everyone, because I think there's different forms of overeaters. For me, the type of compulsive overeater I am, it just, my brain works in a different way, and I've had to find a different solution, and this is definitely the perfect solution for me. Yeah, I just to kind of progress on from that, after I left school for a year, I was trying to get away from my home environment, and I really thought that a change of scenery would these are one of the things I tried to stop eating compulsively. I thought that if I moved somewhere else and I had a different lifestyle, then I wouldn't be eating as much. My eating was really getting out of hand. By this stage, I was 18, I'd just left school, and I went to New York as an au pair. And that's really, there's different times in my life when I noticed the disease getting considerably worse. And it wasn't because I was unhappy. I don't believe that happiness or unhappiness affects the way I eat. But it did, it was the first time that I had a room of my own. I had my own bedroom, and I also had an income, not a huge income, but enough to be able to buy food compulsively. And that was the first time that I began isolating to eat and hoarding food. And that changed the pattern of the way my eating went from then on. Definitely, I used food to deal with stressful situations or boredom because it worked. Food for me is a wonderful numb out. it makes me feel nothing, and that's
5 minutes.
thank you. 5 minutes. And then progressing on from that, I started trying to get into kind of fasting, juicing. That was a big one for me for a long time. I was always very good at dieting for events, you know, things like weddings or Christmas parties. But again, every time I came off these diets, even if they were successful, the disease seemed to be compounded. It seemed to be much worse, out of control. And then probably in the last, I would say 5 years before I came into GreySheet, I found that I could no longer diet. I didn't seem to have that appeared to be gone, that willpower, no matter how unhappy I was with my weight or how distressed I was by how fat I was. I appeared to have lost the ability to crash diet like that. In fact, all I could seem to do was binge, and that became highly distressing for me. And in those days, I remember waking up. There were sometimes I never actually called in sick to binge eating my job, but there were occasionally days where I would call in sick just simply because I needed quiet space at home to stop overeating. That seemed to be the only way I could stop doing it, just by having some time to myself and just thinking my way through it. And the reason why I'm describing these things are really just the feeling of utter no control over this disease. It was just getting worse and worse and worse. And I think one of the things that pushed me into GreySheet in the end was the fact that my daughter, at that time she was 7, was starting to notice that mummy was skulking in the kitchen, stuffing her face from the cupboards, you know, and food was disappearing and her treats were going missing. And I couldn't hide my eating from her anymore. And I didn't want her, A, to have a memory of a mother who was doing these weird things with food. And also, B, I didn't want her to have a fat, overweight, exhausted mother. I didn't want that to be her childhood. So that kind of brought me into GreySheet. But I stayed, as they say, you come in for the vanity, but you stay for the sanity. And for anybody who's new on here, I just want to finish by saying I came in really with the sole thing that I wanted to lose weight. And I didn't realize that there's much more on offer here. That crazy craving stopped for me after probably about 3 days. I mean, for some people it lasts a bit longer, but after about 3 days, that incessant craving and feeling like I wanted to eat stopped, and that has never come back. Occasionally I have head hunger, but I know that's head hunger. And I've never felt hungry on the GreySheet. You know, my food has gone up considerably because I'm now in maintenance, but even when I was on basic food, I have never felt hungry. It's also been, for me, the biggest thing has been the spiritual connection, and that's growing. The more I work on it, the better that gets. But just having tools, like, as I said, waking up feeling distressed and actually looking for something else aside from food to calm myself down, reading spiritual literature and connecting with people. And that also has been a wonderful thing in GreySheet, the connections that I've made, the friendships that I've made. And I never would have thought that would have happened. That certainly wasn't one of the reasons why I came in here. But this fellowship is as we all know, incredible. And I certainly could not do this by myself. I can only do it because of all of you. So I think I've reached 15 minutes now, have I, Denise? So I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.